Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats Podcast, where we talk about all things strange, unusual, and paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostess. I'm Stacy.
I'm Kara.
So, everybody, welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats Podcast. I know we have a lot of new followers coming to us from Instagram, so we just wanted to take a moment to say hi. I'm Stacy.
Kara.
Yep.
Obviously, we just said it earlier.
Right. And we've been doing this podcast now for about 2 years, right, Kara? Coming up on our 2-year anniversary, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that sounds right. And we just really love to talk about, we love to be scared. That's why we call ourselves Two Scaredy Cats. And we try to go to investigate and see if ghosts really are real and from the scaredy cat perspective. So, without further ado, we have a lot to talk about today. A lot of crazy things going on in the world out there, right, Kara?
Yeah, especially in the news. We have at least today I'm covering some, new stuff that just happened recently, in the past month. And then one of the topics just happened, 2 days ago, which is kind of crazy. So, it is.
So, what is it?
If people are not aware, there is definitely a lot going on in the UFO community right now, specifically that whistleblower that just came forward. I figured we'd discuss it because he has some very interesting information. And his, actual credentials are pretty crazy. And, I don't know, it's just, a whole wild thing. And the internet's, going crazy about it. So, obviously, we have to talk about it because we are, we do talk about UFO stuff and that kind of... And then we also have, another, an actual UFO event that happened that we're going to be talking about, too. That'll be interesting. Stick around for that.
Yep. So, why don't you catch everybody up to speed on what happened? Was it yesterday or the day before yesterday that this story broke about this gentleman that was involved in a very high up part of the government came forward with some information?
So, this actually happened. So, it first came forward on June 5th. You might have seen there was a lot of news stories about this. But basically, David Grush came public with his claims. So basically, he filed a whistleblower thing and through the U.S. government to be able to come forward and tell stuff that were classified information because he feels like there's a threat to us, the people should be known,
the human race,
because they are not being public about this information. I mean, I think we all know, or at least, I don't know if we've talked about this, but the U.S. government did come forward with those, 3 UFO things that they said that these really are, I think they used the terminology UAP insteed, which is, unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Yeah.
So that is the technical terms, and you will hear me say that a lot. But basically, he had to go to the Department of Defense to get permission to talk publicly about his story to make sure he does not break the law because there's a lot of classified information and stuff that could get him in trouble because of where his security clearance is in the government. He did step down, I think in April is when he stepped down. So this is pretty recently, but now he's just now coming forward with the information. And basically 2 days ago, he came forward with it was Sunday night. They aired his full interview on News Nation. Is where they had the thing.
About right, I think, yeah.
So then they came forward with that. But, so this guy worked for the Air Force for 14 years. So, this guy's, well-versed, And then he worked on the UAP task force. The one that they came forward and said that existed, that we talked about earlier.
Is that Project Blue Book, or are you talking about something different?
No, so the UAP task force was just documenting aerial phenomenon.
Okay.
So he had a very high security clearance, obviously, to be in these kind of programs. And basically he could get clearance to almost any program in the US, but there was one he could not, and he was like, what is going on with this? So he could not get information about this broad crash retrieval program, which sounds pretty like tame, right? But he knew some people in the intelligence agency. He's like the CIA people. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he knew a lot of people, and a lot of people would come to him on information about the broad crash retrieval program. He was not a part of it directly, but he did hear about it through people, and people would bring him classified documents about this, so he had information he was not supposed to have, essentially.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of information.
They trusted him, right? Because he
he knew them, and he was in the Air Force with them. He knew all these people. Like, there were a lot of people that would come to him for information. Like, listening to the interview is really interesting. If you haven't, you should. So they took it off of YouTube, which is lame, because I was gonna watch it yesterday, but then I found the other version of it on their website directly. I don't know why they got taken off of YouTube.
Wait, on YouTube's website?
No, on News Nation. The people that actually did it.
Okay.
I don't know why it got taken off of YouTube, but it did.
Probably because everybody's so ridiculous these days and the overlords, I'm sure, weren't happy about it because it was taking away from the rest of the stupidness of YouTube.
I just think it's because he said too much, or who knows.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, probably. I don't know.
But his claims are pretty wild.
All right, so what are some of his claims?
So he mentioned the broad crash retrieval program.
Right.
So he claims that this program in question would retrieve non-human origin vehicles, basically.
Right. Okay. So we all kind of know that. I mean, come on, we're not stupid.
Yes, we know that, but he
confirmed.
There are other people who have come forward, but this is just another person.
And he's higher up, so basically he's confirming what we've already known.
And the U.S. government approved him to come forward with these, like, he has documents, he obviously can't give them out to the public because they're classified, but he's allowed to talk about the information in them. So a lot of people are like, well, he's not giving us any proof. I'm like, well, we don't have... You're never going to get proof like an open case. We're not going to see the actual proof. We're just going to see hear about it through these people.
And you're just going to have to believe it or not believe it. And that's just the way. You can believe it or not believe it until the aliens come and take us all away. But until then.
But there's an open investigation about this. And if it does go through, like, his stuff we will be able to see it if it goes through.
If he gets called up in court, no, because they don't want all their dirty laundry aired out in court. Let's be real.
Oh, yeah, they don't want that. But so the stakes he's claiming is if they are not true, he will go to jail. So he has a lot on the line. I don't know why someone would come forward with this kind of information if they did not absolutely believe it was necessary to come forward.
Right.
You know.
So why did he come forward? What's he so worried about out of curiosity? What does he think's going to happen and that he had to tell us?
Well, there's more information. Well, there's more stuff that he has, like the proof to help back up stuff and just other information he gave. So, like I said, they would retrieve these vehicles. He also alleged that they would have spacecraft from another species. They say there's at least 12 of them.
What? There's 12 in the U.S. species of aliens?
No. 12 of the spacecrafts.
Oh, okay.
They have at least 12. He said.
We know they have the one. Well, we know they have the one from Roswell, so there's one, the original.
Well, he's going to talk about some of the other ones that he has claimed.
Oh, okay.
Essentially, people from said task force would confide in Grush about the objects received and would show documents to prove it, like I said earlier. They also claim they have bodies of the non-human intelligence.
Yep, I believe that. They got them from the Roswell.
I know, but like this guy is coming forward and saying, yes, this is true. And
but
this guy has. I know, just because we know it is not the same as this guy coming forward and saying that we have it.
Okay.
You know?
Well,
so then, and he also claims there's a disinformation campaign against the general public.
I believe that, yeah.
Like there's a lot of stigma around this, like, topic. Like, I was telling my friends about it, and, like, a lot of people are like, where's the proof? Where's the proof? I'm like...
That's because that's the way they make us believe. They want us to believe that
they'll have those, like, really crazy people, because, you know, there are people who will make some insane claims, but I feel like they do that to make it so that when their actual evidence comes out, they're like, oh, well, you're just one of those
we all just look at the other crazy person and be like,
there's definitely some wild stories I've heard.
Oh, yeah.
But there's also some really interesting, incredible experiences, too, that we're going to talk about one after this story about, like, an actual experience.
Well, my
that
story
was just
today
happened.
is a very crazy UFO. Well,
Oh.
possible UFO alien.
This is our UFO episode today.
Yeah, basically.
Get your tinfoil hats on. We are going in. Okay,
we're going in deep today, people. So make sure your hat's nice and.
Don't let them get your information from. Don't let them read your brains.
That's right.
So basically, he claimed in 1933 there was a cover-up in Europe. This was the first cover-up about UFOs and the first like alleged UFO thing. Like essentially that the U.S. government is trying to cover up or whatever.
Okay.
In 1933, like in Europe, it was in Magenta, Italy, and it was a partially recovered UAP. This was actually has backed up evidence because Mussolini was in charge at the time, and he had documents of the crash. And then there was an agreement with the U.S. government, and the U.S. government ended up taking it. So the U.S. government has parts from this crash.
Huh.
And then Roswell was another one he brought up. He said he can't go into many details about it because that was not one of the. Well, right? That's one of the ones he was told like you can't really talk about this one.
Well, yeah, because that's where they got all the goods.
Well, I know, but like there are some. They cherry picked the cases he's allowed to talk about and ones he's not allowed to talk about. And Roswell's one, which is like sus, as we all know. I'm sure that's definitely one. But he did bring it up. Or I think the interviewer asked him about it. And then, but yeah, there was some other crazy stuff he was talking about too. But he definitely says we're not alone.
That they're already here on Earth with us, is that what he's saying?
Yeah, well, so he won't say that they're, like, from a different planet. He said that that's not technically, it could be something different, it could be from a different universe, or, like, he did talk about, quantum? No, quantum, quantum physics theories and stuff. That is possible, the multiverse is true, too, or, like, it could be possible. Like, how are these, like, entities able to get here, and, like, he talked about how nuts the technology is. Like how on the periodic scale there's like really heavy metals essentially. A lot of the parts in the spacecraft were like really high heavy weights, like metals that we've never worked with or like really seen before. Which is interesting.
That's something that you can't find on Earth is what you're saying, where the type of metals that okay.
So there was a legal battle before he came forward, and the law firm
of course
presenting him quoted that their intelligence inspector general, is the one that approved him to be able to talk about it, found that David's claims to be urgent and credible, which is interesting.
Why is it urgent though? That's the part I'm not understanding.
I don't know, but so they also they did go into a part that we are not the only one with a UAP, like a retrieval program. There are other
Russia.
Basically, this is the new Cold War. Yeah, Russia is apparently also
in a lot of in Korea, probably.
Well, listen, he's said that they're also trying to like disassemble these things and use them for technology weapons program. But he is upset because these same technologies could be used to better like
weapons here on Earth.
General population. No, not weapons. Listen, they're talking about just people, like people's lives, like energy, like the way that they use energy could be used to like instead of just using it for like evil purposes, like fighting and wars, they could also be used to like advance civilization, but they're just focusing on that. I was gonna say they're part of why he wants to come forward.
The bad part,
and they're hiding the information from Congress, and that was a part of his big argument. They're basically not telling. So a lot of U.S. government does not know about this, and that's why they're bringing it to light. So there's a lot of interdepartmental issues going on. Like I said, Congress.
All right, so Congress.
And there's apparently taxpayer money. Our taxpayer money is going to this, and we don't know about it.
Well, yeah, okay, that's it.
Like I said, get your tinfoil hat on, guys. I'm telling you, there's some interesting theories. This is also like a breaking news, so there could be new news coming out by the time you hear this, because it's coming out Friday.
Today's only Tuesday, so there's 4.
Today's only Tuesday, so like in 3 days, who knows? Because this just happened like a day.
This could go bonkers.
3-day news cycle, who knows? There are other people with him in the whistleblower thing. Like the people who brought him documents also had to like sign the whistleblower thing. Basically, he wouldn't have been able to come out with this, but in 2022 they updated like the whistleblower, like what happens when you do the whistleblower thing, that he was able to even bring this to the public, basically.
Interesting.
But yeah, obviously a whistleblower means that
Hell
they think
yeah.
that whatever they're doing is
So
nefarious.
wait, who's nefarious?
So.
The governments or the actual aliens? Or is that both?
Well, he also makes claims that the U.S. has agreements with the intelligence of these like entities, but we don't know. And they've also
I could believe
he allegedly says that they have done harm to humans before. So take that as you will. I don't know. I would definitely just watch the whole thing. Just watch the whole thing for yourself. You know.
Well, this ties into my whole story.
Well, I know, and then we're gonna talk about my wild story too, because there's another story we have relating to this sort of. I mean, it's relatable. It's a UFO, with pretty credible evidence too to back it up, which is wild. But yeah, so that was this whole thing that's going on, and then we're gonna talk about what happened in Las Vegas on April 30th into May 1st.
But it's just now coming to light, which is so crazy to me that it took so long.
No. It was just now the news media is talking about it, covering it more. It's not that it wasn't covered; it was also in a court case too, like a It was in a criminal case, so they really can't like release this information
after the case. So I know, okay.
But it was funny how I found this story because I was literally just at my friend's house and
it's all over the news right now. I mean, it's insane.
No. But like, listen, it's just weird how I found it. I was just watching. I was also on her YouTube, and there was like a search bar, and there like one of the, I think like 5 down, it just said aliens. So I was like, okay, let's go see what's new in the alien scene. And I clicked on it, and this was the first thing that popped up, and it had just been posted. This is like has like the whole story. Basically, they went in and they figured out what happened, the timeline, because there was a lot of like confusion about how the timeline of events happened. But basically, people watching the skies in many western states made reports of a bright fireball going across the sky. Police officer in Northwest Valley records the object flashing low in the sky on his body cam. There's footage of it.
Yep, I saw it. Yeah.
You can watch this. You should go watch.
You can find it anywhere. Instagram, there was also, TikTok. It's all over YouTube.
I know. But then there was also ring footage at the time that caught the object appearing to crash nearby where this story is about to unfold. The recording has the sound of a crash and a flash of light. 2 boys and a father are outside working on a vehicle when they witness the object crashing in front of them. They even felt the object crashing, like they felt like a shockwave almost kind of thing. And one of the brothers, when looking at the spot of the crash, reported it looking blurry and distorted. So that we've like heard about before in UFO cases. I mean, I guess we should call them UAPs. Anyways, after 2 figures came out of the crashed object, this prompts the family to call 911. I mean, if I saw 2 aliens, I'd probably call 911
I'd be calling Arnold Schwarzenegger and a bunch of other actors to come save me at that point.
And they describe 2 8-foot-tall persons in their backyard. They're not like people, obviously. No, 2 8-feet-tall people in their backyard. Describing them as non-human. They had green-gray skin, and they had big black eyes, and they also had very large mouths. Creepy. I remember them reporting that too. Eventually, one of the sons who had a close encounter describes being able to see the creatures breathe, and he described himself freezing up when locking eyes with this creature.
Paralysis,
like
or was it?
No, it's like he first freaked out. I'm telling you, if I saw that, I'd probably like freaked out.
I'd be freaked out, and there might be a puddle underneath me at that point. I'm just saying.
I know. So later on, the family goes on to claim from like other family members that they heard multiple footsteps in the yard, and they also heard footsteps on the roof, which is kind of scary.
That's almost like
hear them running around on top of the roof. So there's probably more than 2. I think that 2 was just what they initially saw before they went in the house freaking out, because I'd probably go in the house too. So when the officer comes to the house, which 30 minutes after the call, which is kind of like a long time.
Because they probably thought they were
wackadoodles. But the officer who did come, he said that he actually took it seriously because the other officer, his partner, had that body cam footage and saw it himself. He saw, because he in the interview I saw with the police officer, he said it was crazy because he had just seen what he thought was a shooting star, and then someone calls claiming to have aliens in their backyard. So it kind of backed up the other evidence, and they decided to take it seriously and actually went to go check out with the family and talk to them more. So the family, when they get there, the family describes that something big with a light was in there. They were kind of freaked out. They basically went back over what the phone call was about. They checked out the crash site. So where the object had landed, it had actually left an indentation in the soil that was not present before, and they have footage of the before and after to back up these claims. There was no footage of the actual thing because, of course, the camera cut out. Like every other freaking... They must have some sort of technology that does that. Like, it's insane. Right. There's so many stories like this. How convenient. But it does look like something, indented it. And then the family also said that they had seen men in suits and sunglasses circling the neighborhood with government tags on their cars.
Black.
Which means men in black encounters. Which they could... Oh, do we know they're government? Or they... Because sometimes the men in black pose as the government. Which is kind of wild. And initially, the family was very open to reporters, but they would suddenly not answer the door for interviews that they had previously agreed to with the news station. So they would be like, yeah, come out and do an interview. They would show up, and no one would answer the door, and
that's
very unusual. And the Metro Police said, they initially said that they do believe that something crashed in the yard. They just don't really know what happened or what exactly it was. But yeah, that is other breaking news. Because it's heavily talked about in media at the moment. That was 5 days ago, I think. That was circling in the news stories. But yeah, we got new topics, people. We haven't had a new topic in a while. But yeah, so what is your interesting story today?
Oh boy. All right, you might want to put those tinfoil hats on. So my story today...
Oh boy.
Yeah, this one is crazy. I've never ever heard of this. This is the first time I've ever heard of this. So... There was a, you can Google this, by the way, and there are pictures, and I will warn you now, they are very disturbing pictures, so if you don't like that kind of stuff, don't Google.
Whoa.
So the story is about the Guarapiranga Reservoir Mutilation. This is the first time that they ever found a human body mutilated by nefarious means. And from everything that people have said and by the autopsy report given by the actual coroner, it looks like it might, and people are leaning towards that it was a UFO or alien mutilation on a human, which has never been done before and hasn't been done since. So here's the story about what happened and everything. It's pretty... So... Our story starts off on the 29th of September of 1988. A mutilated body of a middle-aged man was found on the Billings Reservoir Lake, and this is in Brazil, by the way. This is not here in America. This happened in Brazil. Now, first things I want to point out is you'll notice that I said the Billings Reservoir when the story I told you to look up had to deal with the Guarapiranga Reservoir. These two reservoirs sit right next to each other in Brazil, and they're not that far away from each other. They're both man-made lakes there in Brazil. The Billings one that they said it happened at is a smaller reservoir, to where the one where it actually occurred at, the Guarapiranga Reservoir, is a much larger one, and it's to the east of where the Billings one is. So anyways, what happened, there was a young boy, he was out walking, he had a slingshot with him, and he was, messing around, hunting for some birds or whatever, and he noticed a bunch of vultures, and they had something over on the other side of the river, or the lake from where he was. So he went to go investigate it, and when he got there, he shooing the birds away. When he shooed the birds away, he noticed that he thought it was just another animal. You know how vultures are, they'll eat, any dead thing. Turns out it was human body remains. So the little boy ran to the next village that was nearby and told them what he found. So the cops came, obviously the police, and they went and they got the body. And by the next day, the body was gone, and all that remained was a little bit of police tape. That was it, okay? And nobody heard about this story for 6 years until 1994, when the coroner's report was finally released on this story. Until then, nobody talked about it. I mean, people knew who it was that had passed away, but like nobody really talked about it too much. Now, here's the coroner's report and what the coroner's report reported happened. Okay, so pay attention, because we're going to find out what the police report said, and you'll notice some major discrepancies in what the coroner said and what the police had to say about it. So the coroner's report and the morgue photos were released to the press, and it was didn't come from a like the police or anything like that. It was actually leaked from an unknown source. So according to the report, the eyes of this gentleman had been extruded from his head. His eyelids had been cut away. The tongue was removed. His left ear was sliced off. The lips and flesh around the mouth and neck had been removed, like he had basically been skinned from around the mouth all the way down to his neck. And a piece of his jawbone had been cut out. Examining the rest of the body, the coroner found that there were these puncture marks that were occurring all over his body, and they were found under the armpits, all over his legs and arms, and in certain areas like his stomach, near his groin and that. All the marks were the same size. They were basically 1.5 inches large. This hole was, okay? And it looked like it had been, and they were the same diameter and all that stuff. And it looked the same. And it was a very clean puncture wound, too. There was no blood. No blood anywhere to be found. All the blood had been drained from the body. And it didn't look like it had been cleaned up by anybody. It looked like, the blood was just gone. So certain muscles had also been removed from his legs that had been taken away. All of the internal organs had been removed, and there was only a puncture wound to the chest where they believe all the organs had been removed from. So let's think about this. You're talking about large intestine, small intestine, liver, kidneys, lungs. All of it was removed from this, 1.5 inch hole. And the coroner concluded that the only way these organs had been removed was by being sucked out of these holes, which is something that only physicians do, and they only do it in it's not done a lot anymore, because they found that when they do go to suction organs out, it's kind of messy, and a lot of times you'll get tears and stuff into the organs. The deal with this was that it was crazy that's what the coroner concluded had happened, but there was no gore or blood or anything that went along with it for it to have happened that way, if that makes sense. There should have been more blood and fluids and stuff. His body had been drained of all blood. The extraction of his colon had been carved with some type of special tool that they said they use, and when they ripped out his colon, it ripped out his exterior side, to put it nicely. And and also they removed his scrotum also. Oh. Yeah. But the other part was still there, which is weird, because normally when somebody does that type of mutilation to a body, like our serial killers and that, it's, in a sign of retaliation or whatever, and they usually cut off the whole thing. It's not just you take one section, you leave the other kind of thing. Yeah, it's really crazy. Anyway, they came to the conclusion that because it was so precise and surgical, that it had to have been done with somebody that knew what they were doing. It wasn't just some rando that was going around, mutilating people for the fun of it. The toxicology report showed that there was no anesthesia used or no paralyzing drugs were used, which basically means that this poor guy was awake and could feel everything when it was happening. Wow. They say that doesn't mean that some other form of paralyzation could have happened, but it wasn't anything that was drug-induced type thing. It says like I said, all the marks on his body were very precise and surgical. The autopsy report lists the cause of death as follows. The victim died of a heart attack brought on by extreme pain and torture. So the victim was a 53-year-old man who was an alcoholic, and he was a known alcoholic, but he also had epilepsy. So he was reported missing 3 days before his body was ever found. He had been fishing at the reservoir, and he had removed his clothes to swim across the lake to find a better fishing spot. Now, this has all been confirmed by his family and also by the police, because the police found his clothes in a pile a little bit away from the other side of the shore, where he went into the water to get to the other side. They say that this was a common thing for him to do. He would take his clothes off and go swim to a better fishing spot to get the fish. So they think on this particular day that he had been drinking, and he accidentally mixed his epilepsy medicine with the alcohol, and that caused him to not function properly when he was swimming, and it caused him to have a heart attack when he was swimming across the reservoir, and it put a lot of pressure on his heart and all that. So the initial police report said that he had been preyed upon by scavengers such as insects, vultures, and that his injuries were a combination of decomposition and animal mutilation after he died. Now, if you remember what I had talked about in the coroner's report, the coroner talked about precise and surgical, like, cutting and stuff. It wasn't, when insects and that come to, consume the body and that, you can tell, like, you know what I mean? It's very messy, and there, you can see, like, bite marks and all that. There was none of that. This looked like cutting with, like, very sharp instruments and that, which is not indicative to animals and stuff. So, however, these findings were unlikely due to a couple of things that they found in the coroner's report. So, first of all, the victim had not been dead long enough for natural decomposition to happen, and nor had enough time passed for any of these animals to have eaten the amount of flesh and organs that were missing at the time. Remember, I had said all of his organs were basically missing from his body. He was missing huge chunks of flesh, like somebody flayed him like a piece of fish or something to remove his skin. And all the incisions that were made on him were not natural. They were all of a man-made type cuts. So authorities were accused of covering up this story, and there's a lot of evidence to support this claim. First of all, the story it took 6 years for the story to come out.
That's
like
weird.
It was, totally hidden from the public. Yes. And when the public did find out about it, there were misreports to the public of where exactly it took place. Like I said, they kept saying that it was on the Billings Reservoir when really it was on the Guarapiranga Reservoir. People don't understand or know why these secrets were held for so long with this particular case. There's a lot of speculation that maybe they were, some collusion with aliens and stuff like that. Now, the reason that people think that aliens might be involved was because of where the attack happened. So some people think he could have been attacked by a cryptid because the particular area of where this occurred at, there are a lot of strange sightings that have occurred over the years, and people actually, there is a cryptid, I forget what the name of it was, that they claim hangs around near that reservoir. But it said and there's a lot of animal mutilations that happen in this area of sheep and cows and stuff. And we all know what happens in animal mutilations. That if you start thinking about some of the things I told you about how his tongue was removed.
Yeah, it's very similar.
No blood. You know what I mean? That's another thing similar to the mutilations of cattle, like and sheep and that. There's never any blood to be found. The weird puncture wounds. There's always puncture wounds near major organs when they get removed from the animals, and stuff like that. It just all, adds up to the same kind of stuff as what happens with the mutilation of animals. And the interesting thing is that UFOs are always show up when there's animal mutilation. There happened to have been a sighting of an unidentified flying object around the time that this gentleman disappeared. So that kind of further, makes people lean towards, UFOs, and they all believe that the police department is in some kind of collusion with these aliens, or something's going on with the Brazil government and, this big cover-up thing that's going on. So, like I said, some people think that some flesh... Now, first people thought maybe it was a flesh-eating animal, like some new species, that ate all of his organs and tissues. But there was also something that was not revealed right away to people, and that was that some of the wounds were cauterized. Which would rule out animals, because animals don't know how to cauterize.
How the heck is an animal going to cauterize someone?
Exactly. And that was, that's why that one didn't bode, that's what people were saying. And, so that was another, little thing that made people lean more towards the supernatural and, UFO stuff. So the case is still unsolved, in the eyes of the public, basically, in Brazil. If you're interested and you want to see the pictures from that, they are out there. All you got to do is a quick Google search. It's called, like I said, it's called the Guarapiranga Reservoir Mutilation. I encourage you to, you don't have to look at the pictures, but at least check out the information related to this story to come up with your own conclusion about what you think it might be. But personally, just based on everything I'm seeing and all that. Now, I forgot to mention that this lake area has been used in the past by, there's gangs in Brazil that use it to dump bodies and stuff. But this body was, it was nothing that they had ever seen and have seen since, that what happened to this body. It was so mutilated. And some of the things that were done to it were just, it was above and beyond what, and some of it, they said there's no way that a human could have done that. Just some of the things that were done to the body. You should read the autopsy report. You'll have to find a translation, because when I looked at it, it was all in Spanish. So, there should be one that's been transcribed out there somewhere for you to look at. But, you should... That's kind of scary, though. It makes you... Everybody paints aliens, all these, E.T., all cute little alien here and all that. And it makes you kind of wonder, are there subspecies of aliens out there that mean us harm, that hate us for whatever reason and have ill will towards us and want to harm us?
It
makes you wonder.
That other story makes you wonder.
know. Between the first story about that guy and then this story, they almost are hand in hand, honestly.
All three of the stories are kind of hand in hand.
Yeah. So it makes you wonder, what's going on in our skies at night? Maybe pay a little more attention.
That's my favorite thing to do when I'm driving.
Oh yeah,
anywhere,
I know. Dad thinks I'm a
night,
wackadoodle because
I'll always I'm looking for cryptids or UFOs.
Yep.
One time I had a experience when I was driving where I saw something it looked like a UFO and then it was just gone. But I don't know.
I caught something on video that I'll have to post one of these days. That and I checked on my phone with one of those apps that tells you where everything is in the sky, and there was nothing there where this thing was, and the way it moved, it did not move like normal. We kind of live near the airport around here, but they usually do a loop around, and this was not flying the normal pattern that our airplanes fly. In fact, it was moving vertically, it was going up and down, and then it would jet right to left, and it would do it very quickly. So it was, and the way it moved in the sky was just way too fast for an airplane, and it was moving very odd, but keep your eyes open, people. Look to the sky. Pay attention.
Keep your eyes to the skies.
Yes. Pay attention.
You never know your surroundings. If you see something, say something.
Yeah, if you see something strange, you can report it.
There's actually a place
that keeps track of all this, so you can report too.
Mufon.
That will keep track. If you see one, please report it. They're trying to, keep track of this stuff.
There are a lot of places. You should actually check it. It's called the Mutual UFO Network that I mentioned, the Mufon. They have a website, and you can report any UFO sighting, and you can see if other people in your area also
have reported them. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And sometimes if you have something pretty good, they'll reach out to interview you or whatever, or But yeah.
So if anybody has any stories they'd like to share with us about maybe you...
Yeah, any crazy UFO
you were driving at night and you saw one, please reach out to us. You can reach us on Instagram, you can message us, you can email us at Two Scaredy Cats Podcast at gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. But yeah, so keep your eyes to the sky, people. You never know what you're going to see. So yeah, check out some of our other episodes where we've talked about aliens before.
Yeah. We had one of our popular episodes is the
Yeah,
Missing 411
there's that
we
one
just
where
talked
we talk about missing time, and
that was like our second, or was that our first episode? I think?
no, I
Or
think it was second one.
It was second. It was
Yeah,
one of
the first few.
two.
Yeah, and excuse the some of our editing and on that one. It's gotten better, hopefully, over the time.
Yeah, we've definitely gotten better.
The first one might be a little rough, but editing wise, but it's still got good content. But anyway, check out some of our other things. Don't forget to like and follow us on Facebook, on Facebook and on Instagram. And check out, we have a Two Scaredy Cats creation Instagram page that has a lot of jewelry and stuff that we sell also. So check that out too. Give us some likes and follows. We could use some. Yes. So anyway, that's all we had to talk about today. I hope you enjoyed our show.
And if you enjoyed our podcast today, follow us on Instagram at Two Scaredy Cats Podcast. And please be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really helps the show get discovered. And tune in 2 weeks for a new episode. And to all our scaredy cats and kittens out there, remember, curiosity didn't kill these two scaredy cats.